Are you ready for what works? Here's what you want to do now to handle negative and pressure and rejection. Number one, do you want to handle it properly and successfully? Then number one, you first need spiritual clarity. Spiritual clarity. Now, when I say spiritual here, I don't mean that in the traditional Christian or Jewish or biblical sense. I mean spiritual clarity in the sense that you in your spirit, in your heart, and your mind have a total clear direction. You have spiritual clarity. You have crystal clear knowledge of where you're going and why you're going there. Do you want to build positives in your life? Then here's the first thing you must have to overcome rejection and overcome negative. You need spiritual clarity. I know exactly what I want. Financial independence, financial freedom. I don't want my wife and my family to be controlled by other people financially. I want to be free. So you know with clarity what you want. Not just the boats and the cars and the yachts and the vacations, but the freedom that makes all of it possible. Clarity. Number two, the second thing you must have to build positive in your life and overcome negative and rejection. Number two, you need a compelling reason for building the business. You need a compelling reason for building your dream. Recently, Amy and I were debating whether to move from where we live. We live in a little mountain community in Kentucky that's very isolated, 3 hours from the nearest airport. And I fly every week. We live there because my family has lived there for 5 generations. It's very special. But we wondered logistically if we should move to a bigger city. So recently we were debating all these cities, whether to move to one of them. We made a list and went over it and over it and over it. We went out one night to pray, to ask the Lord's help. And we couldn't get anywhere, and both of us realized what was wrong. We had no compelling reason to move. And without a compelling reason, you will not sacrifice and you will not be committed. Dexter Yeager has another name for a compelling reason. Fred Hartice has another name for a compelling reason. You know what it is? They call it a big dream. A specific big dream. A compelling reason that makes you work sometimes until you drop, because it's worth it to get that dream and make it come true. You have to have spiritual clarity. You have to have a compelling reason. Number three, the third thing you need to overcome negative is battle training. Battle training. You need someone to train you and teach you how to overcome challenges and how to win. Now, no one has asked me to do what I'm about to do. But I want to encourage you, if you have a tape of the week, if you have things available through your upline, if you have books and tapes and rallies and meetings, and I know you do, whatever you do, take advantage of all of it, and nobody's asked me to do that. I do it because I know that's what will fuel your life. It will provide the energy and the power. You have to have it. Battle training. In our American Civil War, there was a battle called the Battle of Chickamauga, a very crucial, critical battle, very bloody battle, very vicious battle. And at one point, the struggle was so intense that the Northern Union forces brought in reinforcements from 2 of our states, Indiana and Illinois, 2 regiments of young men. And when they were put into the battle, they failed miserably. It was a total disaster. After the battle ended and both sides were regrouping and remobilizing, one of the generals for the North said these 2 regiments should be disciplined. They behaved so disgracefully. And the commander of those 2 regiments said, no, sir. They should not be disgraced because they fought with bravery and they died in the mud with courage. Their failure was our failure. They had no training. And he was right. The battle was so desperate, they took 2 regiments of volunteers who had never been trained. They'd never been tested. They had no battle training at all, and no wonder they failed. That's why, if you're going to build a successful business, you have to have battle training. And you get it through the system of books and tapes and functions and rallies. I need it. Dexter needs it. The Diamonds need it. You need it. Battle training. Now, number 4. I'm almost finished. Number 4. The fourth thing you need to win and overcome negative and overcome rejection, the fourth thing you need is a commitment to character. You need character. Now, I could use some other terminology. Character, guts, backbone, strength, You need character, so you don't fold up and cry and die when someone turns against you. You need character. Number 5, the 5th element of your success, you need a passion for excellence. A passion for excellence. Why is that important? Because when your friends and your former acquaintances try to drag you down into the mud of their mediocrity, when they try to pull you back down, your love of excellence will keep you going, because you want to be different and you want to succeed. You don't want to be like everybody else. You want to win, and you want to be free, and you want to be different. Your love of excellence will save you when that crisis occurs. Now, there are 2 final elements. Here they are. Number 6. I take the title or name of number 6 from an old American Western movie starring one of our American actors, John Wayne. He did a movie back in the 60s called True Grit. And that's number 6. You need true grit. Now, what that means is that even when it is tough, you never quit and you never give up. Let me give you an incredible story, and then I got one more brief point and I'm finished. Incredible story. This is a true story, and you probably have never heard this story in your life. It's one of my total favorites. It's a great story. Here's what happened. It actually occurred on the night of June 13th, 1392 in Paris, France. On the night of June 13th, 1392, this is what happened. The Marshal of France, Monsieur Clisson, was leaving a party late at night. He was the closest, dearest friend of the King of France. And he was the Marshal of France. In other words, he was responsible for the military security of the realm. A powerful and respected individual. He was leaving a party late one night with 8 friends and retainers. No one was armed except Clisson, who had a dagger in his belt. As they wound their way through the dark, narrow streets of the old Latin Quarter of Paris, they were suddenly confronted with a gang of 40 thugs led by a man on horseback. Now, what Clisson did not realize is that the man on horseback was Monsieur Crayon, his mortal enemy, who had wanted to become Marshal of France and with desperate jealousy had decided to destroy his rival. Now, he deliberately did not tell the 40 thugs who the victim was going to be, because he knew that if they knew this was the friend of the king they were attacking, they would never do it. So he disguised who the victim was going to be deliberately. So the battle began. The fight was furious. The darkness and the narrowness of the streets made it difficult for the enemy thugs to pull their swords, and so many of the men were able to escape, but the fight was furious, and Clisson himself was stabbed repeatedly. He was screaming, crying for help, when suddenly Monsieur Crayon on horseback, realizing that they were not able to reach their victim easily, screamed his name into the night and said, "Clisson, you will die." That was a blunder. Because when he spoke his enemy's name, these 40 men with him suddenly realized they were attacking the friend of the king. And with fright and terror, they ran away, leaving the 2 antagonists alone. By this time, however, Clisson was so desperately wounded that he was trying to crawl to safety to save his life. A door behind him opened. A merchant had heard the ruckus, the noise, and pulled him to safety. But he lay on the bed near death. The merchant, realizing the identity of his strange guest, sent his own son to the King of France. True story. And the boy, after being admitted to the presence of the king, said, "Sire, your friend, Monsieur Clisson, is near death at the home of my father. What should I do?" The king, gripped with rage and fear, called his own royal physician, a doctor, and sent his own royal physician to the home of this merchant. And this is what happened. The doctor went within the house and found his patient on a blood-soaked bed. He leaned over and tried every way he could think to help him. Finally, toward dawn, the man began to rally and show signs of strength. He was 64 years old, and he had been stabbed over 65 times. He'd lost great amounts of blood. Finally, however, as the sun came up, the doctor realized that his patient was going to live. And he went back, exhausted but relieved, to report to the King of France. And he said, "Sire, I have wonderful news. Your friend will live. He will survive. He has been desperately wounded, but he will live. And the king said, how can that be with that many wounds? How can he live? And the royal physician said something I believe applies to this business hundreds of years later. The royal physician said, sire, you know your friend. He has faced many tests. He has been in many battles. He has fought many fights. Sire, he is entirely too tough to be killed. And that is why he is alive today. When I read that, I thought of the business. I thought this is what makes diamonds diamonds. They develop a toughness, not a hardness toward people, but a toughness of heart. And they get to the point where no matter what kind of opposition occurs, their dream is too tough to be killed. Do you want to win? Do you want to succeed? This has to be present in your life. You have to develop a dream too tough to be killed. And here's my last point. Number 7. And this one I love dearly. Do you want to overcome negative? Do you want to overcome opposition and rejection? Here's the last thing you need to remember. You need to always remember the power of positive influence. Number 7. The power of positive influence. I love the story of the dream being too tough to be killed so much. I would love to have finished this seminar with that story. I just love it. But I can't finish because I believe this next point is even more powerful. Why is it important to remember influence, your influence? For this reason. A few months ago, and again, this is very personal. A few months ago, I had a time of great personal discouragement. I don't even entirely understand why this happened to me, but I had a time where I was very depressed and I was very down. This was about 10 months ago. It was last December. I had been traveling. I had just finished free enterprises with Belgium and Germany. I'd flown home and done meetings for Dexter and several of the diamonds. I was getting ready to go to Australia to do rallies. And in between all this, I just felt terrible. I was discouraged and depressed. And I struggled. I decided to take Amy and Allison and go on a vacation. So we booked rooms at the yacht club at Walt Disney World in Florida. I went to the airport to get on the airplane. And Amy and Allison, we got our tickets rather late, so we had terrible seats at the rear of the plane. And I was so discouraged and depressed. I don't even know why. And I walked up to the gate to get on the plane, and there was a very tall man who was handling the tickets, and I didn't even really look at him. I just handed my tickets over, and I said, excuse me, is there any possibility of getting better seats? If there are any seats free toward the front, not in first class, I know that's more expensive, but if you've got just better seats somewhere, we'd be happy to have them. And I turned to look for Amy and Allison, who were following me up the corridor of the airport. And when I turned around again, the man was just standing there holding my tickets. He didn't make a move, and I thought, well, maybe he didn't hear me. And at this point, I looked up. He was about 6'6". He was a very tall man. I looked up to him like this, and I started to say something, and he looked down at me and smiled, and he said, I'm on tape of the week. And I said, what? He said, I'm on tape of the week. I saw your ticket. I saw your name. We used your tape in our group last week. He said, it was great. He said, I just went direct. My sponsor just went Pearl. Would you wait a moment? Could you meet our groups all over the airport? He began to call pilots, and people began to gather. He said, would you talk to my group for a minute? I'll be right back. So I thought, well, this is great. So we talked for about 10 or 15 minutes. He came back, and he said, well, it's almost time for the flight. He said, I changed your tickets. He said, you don't mind flying first class, do you? And I said, well, no, that's all right. That's fine. Gave me 3 first-class tickets. We got on the plane and flew to Florida. Now, remember, I'd been so discouraged. We got to Florida, rented a car, drove to Walt Disney World, checked in at the yacht club. We pulled up in the front, and a porter came running out, grabbed our bags, took them inside. I checked in, went back to park my car, to give it to him to park. And he was standing beside my rental car crying, a grown man, about 25 years old, just crying. And I said, what's wrong? He said, nothing's wrong. I'm just so happy. I said, why? He said, because free enterprise changed my life. He said, I went to Free Enterprise. It totally transformed me financially. He said, I went to the Sunday service and came to know Christ as my Savior. God changed my life. My finances are in order. I'm building the business. My other partner over here is in the business. We love it. By this time, I am beginning to feel better. But it wasn't finished yet. 3 days later, there had been a special Amway Corporation meeting. All the people, Tom Eggleston, everybody was there. And 2 Emerald Directs, who are close friends of mine, asked me to lunch. So we went to the Mexican restaurant in the Epcot Pavilion at Walt Disney World. Now, these restaurants in Disney World are special. They're world class. And they're staffed by nationals of those countries. Japan or China or Germany or the United Kingdom, or in this case, Mexico. Our waiter was from Mexico City. Spoke English with some difficulty, and after this wonderful meal, I gave him my ID card with my name on it to charge the meal to my room. He took the card, turned to go, came back, and said, I read your book. And I said, what? He said, I read your book with Dexter Yeager. I'm in the business. I'm building the business. I'm trying to go direct next month. And he said, would you wait just a moment? The head Disney chef is in the business. Can I get him too? And he came running out, and we had another seminar. And you know why all that is important? For this reason. It had just been the month before when I had encountered the woman who went like this. And the other woman who said, I can't believe you're working with those people. Hey, how do you like being those people? It's pretty good, isn't it? I just had all those negative encounters. And then it's as if God opened my eyes to the enormous influence of this business to help people. And after that week, it ended, and I even met other people. I met people that worked in Disney World. I met people who are Disney executives who are in the business, world-class people. And I thought, wow, how stupid could I be? How dumb. This business is changing people. I am privileged to be a part of it. I should never be discouraged again. Now listen carefully. When you choose to win, you help somebody else win. If you quit, they may quit. But if you win, they're going to try again because you are their hope. I want you to build your business for the money. I want you to build it for the freedom. I want you to build it for the financial self-respect it will generate. I want you to build it for the dignity you'll get. I want you to build it for all those reasons. But I also want you to build it because you are the hope of people all through your country. You represent their dreams too. And it may be that the last person who said no to you and the last person who rejected you is still watching you, hoping you'll do it. Because even though they said no, deep, deep, deep within, they hope you're right. They hope you're going to win because they need help too. And they need to know how to succeed. And they need their dignity back. And they need their independence secured. You are their hope. And that's why I call this last point the power of your positive influence. Don't ever, 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 ever forget it. And I have so much I could still say. My time is really gone. But I want to wrap it up by saying this. I was going to make a special promotional statement for a few minutes because of our tape packs that are available in the back. They're almost gone. I didn't know this. We sold almost all of them yesterday. And our books are gone, but I do have the tape packs on people skills, on The Secret of Wealth, which is a great new one I did at the Georgia Dome last month on how to produce money. And another tape pack on keys to super performance, how diamonds perform. So I think there are a few of those back. I don't know where they are, but you can go get those in a short time. But let me say this. I prepare very carefully when I speak because I take it seriously. I ask God to help me and bless it every time I stand up. And I mean that sincerely. But words do fail me at certain points, and this is one of them. I don't know how to convey to you how great this business really is. I don't know how to produce verbal mechanics that will communicate it adequately. because it is so far beyond what most of us even realize. This is free enterprise in action. It is hope. It is belief. It is a dream. It is a way people win and succeed. It is a great business that restores dignity to people, and it actually makes real money on top of all that. It is a great means of growth and productivity. It is a family of support and love and encouragement. I am honored and proud to be affiliated with these organizations, and you ought to be so thankful that you have this opportunity, because it's the great opportunity financially of our generation. God bless you as you succeed. Thank you.